The reason I wanted to be a sports journalist was because actually I had a cousin that was a sports journalist for Radio Sky back in the day. So this is post-apartheid South Africa. So the radio station was named Sky after the old Sky Bantustan government. So it's called True FM now. I used to work there, and I didn't immediately want to be a sports journalist, but the more I kind of understood what he did, the more he kind of inspired me to venture that way. I always loved sport, played sport growing up, played sports at school, cricket, rugby, soccer. And later on in high school, I figured I could write a bit. Actually didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So writing then found me, gravitated towards that. Then because the cousin that I mentioned, Sibusiso Mjikeliso was his name, is his name. Because he had studied journalism. So I figured that is the qualification I needed in order for me to become a sports journalist. The sport or sporting code that's shaped my career the most, I have to say, is rugby. Rugby, I found the stimulation far greater than any of the other sporting codes. I enjoyed analyzing it, enjoyed watching it more. The narratives as well, the stories, the richness of the stories you find in rugby, I find for me are of a higher quality and better intrigue than any of the other sports. The reason I wanted to write a sports book in general was because I did feel and still do feel that South African sports stories, there's a reservoir of information and a richness of stories that is still untold or untapped. I needed a project where I could immerse myself in storytelling. But writing Thando Manana's book, the book is called Being A Black Springbok, the Thando Manana story. So writing his book allowed me to do that. The Mapimpi documentary and how I got involved was actually quite a different way of doing things, because I'd written a book, I'd worked in journalism, but I'd never actually done a project of that kind. And because here's a guy who, the list of hurdles he had to go through is unbelievable. Lost his mother, father not in his life, lost his sister, lost his older brother. The important people in his life left him at the worst possible time. It's the most amazing Springbok story for me, up to date. It was important that Mapimpi's story gets shown so that anybody who feels like, I'm not playing Craven Week, I'm not playing Car Cup, I'm not this, I'm not that, I didn't get picked for the first team, they can still do it, they can still make it, and Mapimpi is absolute proof of that. The greatest sporting moment in South African sporting history has to be the 1995 Rugby World Cup. I was 9 years old, or I was turning 9 that year, and I was obviously begging my father for a Springbok jersey, and no, I can't afford it, it's too expensive and whatnot. So he ends up buying me a France jersey with it's the cheapest one he could get, I'm sure. And guess who South Africa meet in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup? We meet France, and here you got this black kid, 9 years old, wearing a France jersey during the semi-final. For the final, I think I was in my father's flat. I think we were watching the game. I think we were braaiing. But to be in Pretoria then was amazing, despite almost being thrown under the bus by my own father. Being a sports journalist is a very social job. So there are these little pockets around sports journalists where we like to congregate, and Pirates Sports Club / Rugby Club is one of those areas. You ask any Joburg-based sports journalist about Pirates Rugby Club and they will tell you it's the place, it's the center for social gatherings. Just like all journalism, It's an oversight committee, society's oversight committee that holds people in power to account. It's an ongoing role that we're obliged to take, because left to its own devices, rugby is never going to transform. Wherever we are represented by South Africans, they need to look like South African. I think the legacy I'd like to leave behind in my career is simply that I have contributed in people who deserve opportunities, Black people who've deserved opportunities, worked hard, qualified, getting those opportunities. An example at the Titans, who had never had a Black African coach before, promoting Mandla Mashimbi, came up their system as an assistant. You know, having gone through a period, having written stories that, you know, led to confrontation between myself and the organization, them going back and reflecting, and then taking it even further and getting a Black African president, getting a Black African woman as a cricket operations manager, you know, on top of a Black African coach, Mandla Mashimbi, assistant coach, Jeff Toyana, captain, Sibs Makanya. And all those people went on to win the CSA 4-day series in the 21-22 season. So if you ask me what my legacy is, or what I'd like to leave behind in this profession, it's that. It's that those people, not just in cricket, rugby, soccer, and other spheres that might take inspiration from that they might, you know, see and reflect and be pushed to accelerate their transformation goals. My name is Sibusiso Mjikeliso, and I'm the Sport24 Deputy Editor.